no way you can reject that invitation. I have been lucky to be in the teaching profession now for 38 years. It's my 39th year in the teaching profession. In the last 39 years, maybe around 30,000 students would have allowed me to learn with them in their classroom. See, I don't have this illusion that I have taught anyone. I don't think I have taught anyone. But these 30,000 young boys and girls have allowed me to learn with them in their classroom. And one of those who has allowed me to learn with them is Sanjay Ji. And therefore, it becomes even more important for me to be here this morning. And it's indeed an honor to take part in today's program. I must begin with a small admission. Let me begin with a small confession, if I may. I don't have the grace of either Chaitanya or Mudit. I also do not have the eloquence of either Sanjay Ji or Kehkashan Madam or Rekha Madam or Srivastava Ji or Anil Ji or Joshi. I was getting more and more nervous as I heard them speak, because I was just wondering, can I even touch the hem of what they said? Forget touching everything that they said. Can I even touch the hem of what they said? Was the fear that was growing in me. So I would like to say that we have had a wonderful start to this program, and my job is only to do the completion of complete the circle of dialogue that was started by people from this institution, and I will try my best to do it in a limited time so that there is much more time for any discussions that is possible. With your permission, I have a small PowerPoint slide, because one of the things I have learned is while verbal communication is important, visual communication is equally important. So I'd like to supplement or complement what I say with certain images that I'd like to show. So with your permission, I will also put up my screen which I have. I have titled my presentation, friends, Understanding Karnataka. Understanding Karnataka and Celebrating Karnataka. I have put on the left where Karnataka stands in India, and on the right I have put a map of Karnataka just to provide a context for what I am going to talk about. Now friends, I am going to quickly go through the points which are here, because much of this has already been said by friends who spoke before. When the reorganization of states happened on November 1st, 1956, we have the state of Mysore being formed. And I would want you to please focus on what I have at the center here. You will notice in this center part there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 colors here. There are 6 important colors here in the center. What became Mysore in 1956 was an integration of 6 different regions. One, the biggest of them which you see here, the biggest part of them which you see here, is what was called the old Mysore region. Our history professor referred to the Mysore princely state. That became a part of the state of Mysore. Above here in light blue color, the 4 districts that you will notice here, this came to Mysore from what was called the Mumbai Presidency region. In British India, you had the Bombay province. So these 4 districts came to Mysore from the Bombay Presidency. In light pink here, you have certain districts on top here. These districts came to Karnataka from the Nizam of Hyderabad's territory. when the Nizam of Hyderabad's territory got integrated into India, these three districts and all these districts were Kannada-speaking districts. So therefore they were made a part of Karnataka. In dark blue here you will see what is called the Dakshin Kannada district, which was part of the Madras presidency of the British. So it was taken out of the Madras presidency of the British and made part of Mysore state. And then you had the small area called Koot, which was also a small area that also became part of Karnataka, of Mysore. And finally, the district of Bellary here, which was part again of the Madras presidency, that became part of Karnataka. So all these Kannada-speaking areas came together to become the state of Mysore. And as one of you said, in 1973 the name was changed to Karnataka because the term Mysuru was more associated with the princely state of Mysore. So when you had a larger state now, you prefer to call it with a name which resonated across the state, and therefore the name Karnataka, which is drawn from the word Karu-Nadu. And Karu-Nadu means two things. Karu-Nadu means land, and Karu means either elevated land. You will notice many parts of Karnataka are at a little height. Or the other term which is used for Karu is, it is a land where there is black cotton soil. So these were the two origins of the term Karnataka. As the geography and history teachers mentioned, we are the 9th largest state of India, and Karnataka accounts for 5% of India's population. So 5% of India resides in Karnataka. You can see the diversity of Karnataka in terms of the languages. While 2/3 of people in Karnataka speak Kannada as their mother tongue, 2/3 speak Kannada as their mother tongue, 1/3 speak other languages, which includes Urdu, which includes the other South Indian languages of Telugu, Tamil, which includes Marathi, and which includes a language which is found in the Dakshin Kannada region, which is called Tudu. So 1/3 of the languages or 1/3 of the mother tongues of people in Karnataka is actually not Kannada. It is a language other than Kannada. The economics teacher did refer to the economy of Karnataka. If you look at the state of the economy indicator of 2020, we are lucky to have been made the state of, in state of economy indicators, we are the state which is number 1. The capital city, Bengaluru, is the 3rd largest city of the country and the 5th largest urban conglomerate. It is also called the Garden City, it was also called the Pensioners' Paradise. Some people also call it today the Garbage City, not the Garden City, simply because of the dirt and filth that is spreading in Bangalore because of the rise in population and what I would call the unplanned growth of the city. Karnataka is the leader in information technology, biotechnology, the largest silk industry, the largest sandalwood industry, and one of the largest producers of coffee in India. 39% of Karnataka's population lives in urban areas. And if you look at Niti Aayog's India Innovation Index of 2019, Karnataka ranks the first among all. Now, let me try and put all this into 3 important sentences. If you look at our National Education Policy 2020, the National Education Policy talks about skill building. Karnataka is one state which has done quite a bit in terms of skill-based learning. The National Education Policy also uses another term. The National Education Policy privileges the diversity, celebrates the diversity. One of your teachers used this term which we hear ever so often, unity in diversity. I have in the last 10 years been advocating another term. I have been advocating the term not unity in diversity, but unity with diversity. Unity with diversity. And I think for me, Karnataka is an ideal example of unity with diversity. Where you see the variety that you find in the state, where you see variety that you see in the state. Now, friends, to be more specific in my showcasing of Karnataka to all of you, I would use a term. Which is there in the National Education Policy, a term called rootedness. The National Education Policy says, can we be rooted? So, to make this more direct and something you can all remember, I am going to refer to what I would call the Sapta Lakshanagalu of Karnataka, or Sat Lakshan of Karnataka. Please friends, even in Hindi I have said Lakshana because that is how you will call it in Kannada. You will not say Lakshan, but you will say Lakshana. So that's why I said the 7 characteristics which I would say are the characteristics of Karnataka, and to make it easy to remember, I am calling it the 7 C's. And friends, look at the 7 C's. Kaveri, Coffee, Campus, Cricket, Cyber Capital, Karnataka Music Capitals. For me, these are the 7 important characteristics of Karnataka, and I'll spend a few minutes talking about each of these 7. For me, these 7 also represent a very important goal of the National Education Policy 2020. In the first few pages of the National Education Policy, it is said the NEP aims at achieving the sustainable development goals which we have set out for ourselves. And for me, these 7 points reflect the sustainable development goals that Karnataka has set for itself. Let me come to the first of these 7, Kaveri. Kaveri is a river that flows through Karnataka and goes into Tamil Nadu. Kaveri is the lifeline of Karnataka. Kaveri represents the culture of Karnataka. Kaveri represents the economy of Karnataka. Kaveri represents the heritage of Karnataka. Beginning in the Brahmagiri range of hills in the Kodagu district, the Kaveri, as a sacred river, flows for 800 kilometers before merging into the sea. Especially in southern Karnataka, the Kaveri river is the foundation of agriculture, is the basis of agriculture in the state. Now for me, Kaveri is a symbol of prosperity. Kaveri is a symbol of water. Kaveri is a symbol of our pride in the state. And therefore, I showcase the first C, Kaveri, the lifeline of Karnataka, the river which enriches Karnataka and makes this state so very green and so very rich in terms of its product. Let me come to the second C, friends, coffee. Karnataka produces 72% of the country's coffee, which means close to 3/4 of the country's coffee is produced in Karnataka. Those of you who would have visited Karnataka would know that in Karnataka we don't drink your instant coffee or brew or Nescafe. In Karnataka you will get what is called filter coffee, and we don't call it coffee also, we call it coffee. Filter coffee, which is in most houses in Karnataka you will find a coffee filter, and people make fresh decoction every morning and prepare their coffee. I think for many people in Karnataka, the day does not begin without a piping hot glass of coffee. And in Karnataka, when you greet another Kannadiga, often you will ask that Kannadiga, "Kapi aita," which means coffee is over, which means have you had your coffee for today? And most Kannadigas will say, "Haudu, kapi aitu, adare innondu glass ide," which means, yes, I have had my coffee, but one more glass is okay. So coffee is a critical part of our cuisine, and it also means that Karnataka has a very unique cuisine. Let me come to the third C, friend. The third C is what I call campus, by which I mean Karnataka as an important knowledge hub of India. The Indian Institute of Science is located in Bangalore. One of the Indian Institutes of Management is located at Bangalore. The IIIT, Indian Institute of Information Technology, the first one came up in Bangalore. The National Institute of Advanced Studies is located at Bangalore. Bangalore was the one to have the first private universities, including my university called the Jain. And these knowledge hubs are not only in Bengaluru, they are across the state. I must add another point here, friends. In the national education policy, education is described in 3 words: inclusiveness, equity, and quality. Inclusive education, equity in education, and quality in education. I am proud to say that the knowledge hub of India, Karnataka, caters to all these 3 dimensions of India: inclusive education, equitable education, and quality. My 4th C, friends, is cricket. And when I say cricket, I mean the favorite sport. And it's not just cricket. There are several sports that Karnataka plays, cricket being the most important. And I would like to start by the right-hand side of my screen. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see 2 Kannadiga women we are very, 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 very proud of. Their names are Veda Krishnamurthy and Rajeshwari Gaikwad. They are members of the Indian women's cricket team, and both of them hail from Karnataka, and both of them played a major role in India reaching the finals of the Women's World Cup last year. And they both are important icons of cricket in Karnataka, and young women look at them as inspiration. On the left-hand side, we have 3 cricketers who have made Karnataka famous. You have Anil Kumble, you have Rahul Dravid, and extreme left, we have Virat Kohli. You must be wondering why I have put Virat Kohli in Karnataka. Remember, friend, RCB team is captained by Virat Kohli, and therefore Karnataka in a way has appropriated Kohli to themselves. But then, those belonging to Sanjayji's generation and my generation would know that we also had cricketers like G.R. Vishwanath. We also had cricketers like Prasanna and Chandrasekhar, the 2 very famous spinners. And we had the very famous wicketkeeper in Kirmani, who all came from Karnataka. And let me add a personal note here. My university, the Jain University, is a university which gives particular importance to sports. And if you look at the present IPL teams, in all IPL teams there are players who are students of Jain. I may be referring to Karun Nair, I may be referring to Robin Uthappa, I may be referring to KL Rahul, I may be referring to any of these cricketers who I just commented, and there are many more. I am not getting, we are referring to Karun Nair. All these cricketers are alumni or parent students in Jain. Jain also was lucky to have the snooker wizard. He also is a former student of ours. So we are lucky in Jain to have some of the most famous cricketers who play for India today to be students of ours, and they make us proud for what they have achieved in the country. My fifth secret, Karnataka as the cyber capital of India. Let me also link this to the national education policy. One of the principles which the national education policy says we should pursue in education is greater partnership between industry and education. A greater focus on skill development in education. And I think the fact that Karnataka is the cyber capital of the world, of the country, allows us to do this. In fact, Bangalore is called the Silicon Valley of India. Just as Silicon Valley in the US is so important, the Indian Silicon Valley is considered to be Bangalore. And it is the Silicon Valley simply because some of the top IT companies are based out of Bangalore. The IT revolution that India saw in the 2000s was something which started off in Bangalore. Two of the biggest IT companies of the country, Wipro and Infosys, are headquartered in Bangalore. Some of the best IT companies of the world have their India headquarters in Bangalore. Be it Texas Instruments, be it Amazon, be it Cognizant, be it Microsoft, be it Accenture, all of them are in Bangalore. Bangalore is also considered the startup capital of India. Some of the manufacturing giants are present in India: NAL, HAL, PPL, EML, BHEL, IPI. This created a very fertile ground for the growth of the startups. But let me come to my point 4 here. Silicon Valley is Bangalore, but now we have expanded the infrastructure for cyber technology to the other cities of the country, of the state. It could be Mysore today, it could be Mangalore, it could be Hubli, which are emerging as tier 2 cities for the IT industry. This is also a